Bop, bop, ba-da, bop, bop. Hello, hi, 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 hello. Hello, how's it going? Hi, hi, hello. Welcome back to the stream. Woo, hey, ooh. It's today's Cold-Hearted Chats, Last and Civil Servant. I'm sorry, Yellowing. I hope you feel better. Anyway, we are joined today by Chiritomo, Kara, the Great. So let's not delay too much and just bring her right in, okay? Okay. Okay. Wrong button. Wrong button there. Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going great. That was excellent.
It's fine. It's fine. Totally didn't
Smooth
leave the
as
lobby
silk.
accidentally. It's so good. The buttons are right
Yeah, I'm
next to
doing
each other.
well.
It's fine. Yeah, that's good. That's great.
How are you doing, Connor?
I'm doing very well. I have been on a roll a little bit with videos lately. Hello, the Watley? Watley? I forget how to pronounce things nowadays.
Oh
But hi,
wow.
how you doing? Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I've been feeling pretty good. I've been been like past 3 weeks. I've gotten 3 videos out, so I feel really good about that. It's been nice having some consistency. Um, yeah, it's been a lot of
Good.
videos. I had my India vlog. I did a video on Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the Scott Pilgrim anime, and my latest video on Furin, Beyond Journey's End, which is an anime about a sad elf who grieves, and also a lot of other things. It's really great. We'll talk about that a little later in the stream. I love it. It's great. Check out the video on it for spoiler-free review and discussion of the thing. Anyway,
Oh, it looks beautiful.
it's a gorgeous anime. It is animated by the same it's animated by Madhouse, same studio did Death Note, and a bunch of other anime. The same people did One Punch Man also. Um it's a great series. It's a great series. It's like a small little rant I have in the video, but like they animate fabric so beautifully. Like I've never seen an anime, like especially a weekly anime, animate fabric as well as Fiorin does. It's crazy. Um
Yeah, I'm looking at it. The fabric feels like it has weight. I really like the outfit designs.
they're really beautiful. There's a it's a really interesting show because like it's a fantasy show, like it's a basic, like we're in a fantasy world kind of series. It doesn't try to like recreate that or anything, but it very much focuses on its main character Firen and the fact that she is um thousands of years old and doesn't understand how time works. And so like the story
Mm.
begins with her party, her and her friends just ending a 10-year journey where they defeated the big demon king in the world. And it begins at them ending their journey, right? That they've all completed everything, and she's gonna go off and go on an adventure by herself and just like do what she's always done, just like roam around and chill. Um, and then
That's an excellent premise.
yeah. And then in the first episode, this is all I'm just gonna only mention stuff in the first episode. But in the first episode, she then comes back to meet her friends again because like they'd planned for this one to see this one meteor shower they'd seen on their last day together again. But that's been 50 years, and she didn't realize how long that was for humans because she never really took time to really notice it. And
Um,
before she knows it, like she parties with two humans and a dwarf. And the dwarf lives longer because like dwarves have a longer lifespan, but the humans are now old. And she did not realize how much of their lives she was not around for. And it's her journey kind of reconciling that. It's really interesting. Hello, it's OMG, it's Bees. How you doing?
bees, hi.
I love the Scott Pilgrim anime. I have to check the video. I love the Scott Pilgrim anime too because it's not what I expected, and I was really happy about that. And yeah, I've been seeing clips of Fear, and it looks really beautiful. It's got fantastic writing. It has amazing writing. Like this is, um, it has the same composer as My Happy Marriage actually. Like the person of the music. Yeah, and they kill it on Frieren also. Like they do such an amazing job.
I was
Um,
crying all the time because of the music on My
yeah,
Happy
yeah.
Marriage.
Like the music in that is so good. Do you know the composer for that's actually from California?
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, it's weird.
Small world.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, he's a Californian dude who went over to Japan and write out some of the best scores. But yeah, he his name's like Evan Call. He also did the score for Frieren, and some of those tracks are insane. Yeah, so that's a if y'all wanna get my full thoughts on that, there's the video. Check that out. It's a great show. Anyway, I did want to start off with saying, how are you, Kara? How have you been?
I have been doing really well.
Yeah.
I just finished a big move and I don't know, I'm happy it's the end of the year. I'm happy that we're winding things down for the year.
Same. I am. It's my busy time for work, so like I'm not that excited, but like also, it's a good time of year just to like reset. You know.
Yeah, it's the first time I'll be spending the holidays in Seattle instead of like going home. Uh, and I'm just really excited because I don't know what people do here during Christmas time. Uh, yeah, I'm ready to like go see some Christmas lights.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of great stuff. Like suburbs can be so crazy with their lights. But like I always like going downtown in Christmas, like downtown Seattle in Christmas time. It's so nice. I don't know. Like I have two minds about it. Where like on one hand, I know that like lights and all these decorations are just things that are done to spur on spending in these times, and that there's a very heavy commercial aspect to everything that we're seeing and doing. But on the other hand, light pretty. I like lights.
Yeah, I like lights. Like, let me have this joy.
Yeah. I will take the joy. They can't outrip that from me.
They will take it from my dead, cold, limp hands.
Exactly. Downtown Seattle has a lot of cool stuff too. It does. I need to get downtown more often. It is nice, but like it's just this weird thing. Like I keep getting recommended. I know you're not as much of a social media person, but like I use like Instagram sometimes. Like Instagram is really heavy at like giving me the reels that are like crime in downtown Seattle and like stuff happening in downtown Seattle that's bad, and I'm like, great. I love that the meta tradition of like Facebook meme crime posting has moved on to Instagram reels. It's amazing. It's so good. Love it.
That sounds like a huge bummer.
It is, but
I'm like, oof, glad I'm not on social media.
I just block them. I just block all of them. Just like they're gonna keep recommending me this, so I'll just block all of you. So I won't have to see your account specifically. Seattle's honestly
Yeah,
pretty safe. A lot of stuff's an over exaggeration. Yes, it is.
yeah. I my friend sends me TikToks, and I don't have a TikTok account anymore. So every time I finish a TikTok on that little browser window she sends me, it auto plays to like basically just the most intense video possible, which lately has included like a lot of just like people live recording physical violence. I'm like, what are you doing, TikTok? Like, why? Like, I'm just like watching somebody make a funny joke about Harvest Moon, and the next second I hear people screaming. I'm like, like, I'm not going back to TikTok. This is not enticing me.
No, it's not. It's like there's like this shock value that like they constantly try to do on that website, or like it's one of the grosser things with TikTok specifically, because like people do this all the time on YouTube, but like they post people having like public fights or something, or public meltdowns and stuff. But like something about like TikTok where you can't choose to not click it, right? It just puts it right in front of your face because you just swiped. Is just so
Mhm.
is so frustrating because like I don't. It's like the thing of like when you hear like politicians talk, right? and they're like, oh, this bad thing happens because you hear this one story that I got. This one person did a crime. Don't think about how many people live in America. A person did a crime, which means everyone's doing that crime. How dare you? And it's like, okay, great. I'm so like and it's like it's hard because like I know, like in my mind, like this is just stupid anecdotal stories. They are not indicative of the larger trends that you can see and how crime or any kind of like how anything is working in modern society right now. These are like the outliers that are captivating, which is why people watch them on social media sites because they're strange and odd, not your everyday life. And then you get people who are like, this is what San Francisco was like all the time, and I'm like, no, it's not. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate with TikTok specifically because you can't choose things. Like I feel like for me the impact of social media is so much more noticeable because I stay away from pretty much everything except for YouTube now. And so like, you know, hearing those TikToks and seeing something that I don't want to see, I immediately shut it off, but then I'm left with like I'm feeling my heart racing and I've like started to sweat and I'm like,
Yeah.
how do people like just get exposed to stuff they don't want to see every day and just like handle like take that stress load? That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's like it's a very with everything that's been going on and like you know, it's especially difficult right now with like how much people like post stuff like what's going on in Gaza, you know, with everything that's happening there. Neha will like send me stuff about it and like talk, like, you know, she'll get recommended stuff about it, and because she sends me things about it, she of course gets more and more in her feed, and it was starting to really take a mental toll on her recently. So like I had to be like, hey, we got to take a break from this. It's important to stay like informed and to be like, you know, active and like trying to do what you can, you know, to be informed about what's going on, but you don't need to see all the violence, you know, and like
yeah
yeah,
my friend who sent me the TikToks did the exact same thing actually.
yeah, you don't need to see that, and like you gotta do your best to like close the app or just get away from it, because like that shit's not it's like this weird thing where like there's like the perverse nature of it, where it's like I think people like try to justify like, oh, I'm staying informed. I'm like, well, you don't need to be that informed. You don't need to have that in front of your face.
Yeah, I think that it's easy to conflate like what staying informed is, because there's a way that you can stay informed where you're focused on information that's actionable and like minimizing harm. And I think that there's an argument to be made not just about like the mental health harms of seeing like really violent imagery, but also about like the overall cost of desensitizing populations to seeing that kind of thing. And so yeah, I think that like very often, because it's such a intense and like painful situation, it reminds me of what everybody was doing during COVID, where like we just couldn't stop checking for updates even though we didn't need to. Like we weren't going to be leaving, you know, it's like nothing was really going to change, but we kept looking because we were just in that state of mind.
It's like, you know, if something happens, you'll know what happens, but like you don't it is that thing of like what social media tries to do is just get you addicted to that, like that dopamine hit, I think, of also like just experiencing something bad, you know, or like experiencing something different, I guess is a better word, because like they don't care if it's bad or not. They just want to experience something that's going to cause a reaction in you in some sort of way.
Yeah, it's a natural human response to keep looking at the thing that's causing you intense stress, even if it's not, you know, it's not actionable anymore, it's not helpful.
And but reading the focusing on the death tolls in COVID, that puts you in a really bad state. Kind of reading about what's going on. It does take a toll on you. Like you got to be aware of that stuff. Like it's gonna affect you mentally, and like, you know, it's good to stay informed, it's good to do what you can, but like also like you don't need to ruin your mental health for it, because like that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, a blanket statement. I want people to feel comfortable not feeling like bad people for taking some time away
Exactly.
and just like taking some time to focus on positive things in life. Like that's okay. The
Mm.
positive and the negative coexist together. You don't need to like go into kind of cloud cuckoo land or denial to be able to be like, I'm gonna take a break and like,
Yeah.
go find like go hug my cat, you know?
There's levels of moderation that can be found, but moving
Yes.
off moving off this topic, because it is a rough one here. Let's talk about something happy, like my happy marriage.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
this is
I
on.
mean, it's also
Yeah.
go ahead.
All right. So, I was gonna say, I was really surprised when we talked a few months ago here. Yeah, My Happy Marriage is an anime that I did a video on. Oh my gosh, look at me. But it's a video. It's an anime about a woman in early 1900s Japan who has like a Cinderella story, and is forced to marry this cold man who has had a bunch of failed engagements, and she's been shipped off to marry this person. And it's a story of how it's actually good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's excellent. I was really surprised. It's on Netflix,
Mhm.
a Netflix anime. And I so for those people who are familiar with me, I historically avoid anime unless basically Connor, who has excellent taste, vets it for me and approves of it. But My Happy Marriage was one that I came across on Netflix, and the like preview for it was actually like I was like, is this well written? Is this well written? Um, so I watched it and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Well, get your head thing over here. But yeah, it is a. It's a strange anime. It reminds me a lot. We had the conversation about this, private, like when while we were while we were both were watching it, where I felt like it reminded me of a bunch of fan fictions, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
in like a positive way, though, like not because like I think there's a lot of there's like people say something reminds you of fan fiction that can be that could come off as it being kind
A
of in itself,
negative.
but it's not in this situation here,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's really good. um
For those who are familiar with fan fiction, there is a genre of fan fiction called a comfort fic. And comfort fics are, I mean, okay, so my fan fiction understanding is like at least 10 years old because I haven't been in that scene since I was much younger. But at least at that time, comfort fics were a lot of, generally speaking, teenagers who were writing kind of like expressive, angsty stories about like they would take a character from a show and like make their life awful and like everybody bullies them and nobody likes them. And then they bring in um usually like a good like the love interest character who is good, although sometimes we have like the like very edgy comfort fix where it's like they're bad and they're bad for each other but they're also loving each other. So but usually it's a good character who comes in and is like, I'm going to protect you. You're amazing. You're the best possible thing in the world. And also, maybe you have secret superpowers. And it's like, not, it at least back then was written by teenagers. So it didn't tend to be handled particularly like gracefully, especially when like the things they were giving their characters to overcome were like, the kinds of things where when you're a teenager, you don't really think about
the bad
how
grades
intense
in
what you're talking
science
about
class.
is.
From
Yeah,
the
it's like the
evil
kind of thing where they're
teacher.
like, the evil teacher who we're gonna like, perform some kind of act of revenge on, and I'm not really thinking about how awful that revenge is because I'm 12,
Exactly. I am
So My Happy
16.
Marriage
This is
really
peak
follows.
fiction.
I mean, I wrote a lot of that. Like, let's be real. Like, I'm there. But
No, no, no,
I read
same.
a lot of like Harry Potter specific, like they don't appreciate Hermione enough. Like it's fine. So my happy marriage is like if somebody took that genre and actually handled the topic with kind of the delicacy and emotional maturity that it deserves,
Hmm.
and instead of it being a show where the character who is hurt um, is kind of this broken bird for whom the like love interest character just like comes in and solves all their problems and it's perfect. Um, it ends up being the broken bird story of overcoming being the broken bird and like how she gets there.
Hmm.
Which you don't honestly, I struggle to think of another show or story that is written and is about the perspective of the broken bird where it's about her overcoming what she's been through,
Hmm.
just like just entirely her story, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's very focused on Mio's story. I should say. It's her main character's name is her name is Mio. But like it's very focused on her story and her perspective in this situation. And like there's a lot of internal monologue as well about like her perception of what's been going on and why she has that perception because like she's been she literally has like a Cinderella story except her dad didn't die and is also an asshole. Where like her mom died and her evil stepmother and evil stepsister are mean to her, and also her dad is a piece of shit and is also mean to her. And like they basically just make her be a servant even though she's like the older daughter because like she doesn't have powers because it's an anime and people have to have magic powers, come on now. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's see. Yeah, Spy Family is also excellent. I have not seen the Blue Eye Samurai. I want to. I haven't got a chance to see it. I've been that's one of those. I think that's one of those anime I'm gonna watch and like. I usually chill out in January and like not do as many videos. That's like one of those things I'll watch when I have more free time. Um, Also, I'm not sure about checking out Guardsey's Wing. We'll see about that, Yellow Ring. But yeah, yeah. I don't know. What was your thoughts overall? Because I know you recently watched the entirety of season one. So what was your like overall thoughts on the show?
Yeah, so the last time we talked, I had watched up to episode 8, and I thought everything up until that point was like very, very good and excellent. Um, the last few episodes, I still liked them and I still like the story.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just because I've been watching shows that like engaging in content that's longer, so going back to the 20 minutes per episode was kind of like a whiplash, but it felt a bit rushed to me with the last few episodes.
No, I think I feel like that's a very valid perspective. I agree. That I no, I like violent stuff. Don't worry about it. Anyway, no, but like I do agree that the last few episodes they have a really they're different. They're very different. I think in a lot of ways. I like what they overall do with the story, like the arc in the last couple episodes, but like it does feel very different from the beginning, where like I feel like in the beginning of the series is very much focused on the main our main two characters, getting to know each other, understand each other, and like grapple with what each has gone through. And while that doesn't disappear in the last couple episodes, it does change to something more feels more action focused in a way, which I
Yeah,
thought was
more
a bit
comic booky.
yeah, which I felt was a bit I don't know, it feels a bit jarring, especially when you had something that was not that so much like they introduced these kind of things like with the powers and stuff and like having magical fights and stuff, but like having that becomes more of a thing in like the back half of the season, which is not the series' strong suit, I would say.
Yes, I agree. And I think the main I feel like the the reason that it ends up being like feeling really jarring is that Mio's arc towards the end kind of just feels like it happens all at once,
Yeah.
which is interesting because they've done an excellent job of laying the groundwork for it and showing a gradual shift with her over time. But then in those like last 5 episodes, we don't really get to see what makes that ultimate push. Like they talk about it, like so we know what makes her get that ultimate push where now she's like, I'm gonna go after what I want, even though, my whole life that's been a very dangerous and scary thing for me to do.
Yeah.
So we know why she's doing that, but I feel like they spend so much time having to expound on like the powers and like who is who and like what's going on with the history of all of that that we end up missing her like internal conflict resolving
Yeah.
almost.
It,
They
it,
show it, but it's just like a brief moment.
yeah. There is a lot more of the anime that's based on those things that are so anime, which is how your power systems work, how the dynamics of the world are built up. There's a lot more exposition into like this family is like this because of this thing that's happening, and you didn't know this because we were doing this, and these powers work like this and they interact in this kind of way, and like there's a lot of time given to that, and that can be very when the show has not been that, and most anime that do that are very exhausting. It can just be very exhausting because it's just like more lore dumps. Great. They can be genuinely interesting, even and I think some of the things they do are interesting, especially in this setting because it's like a very it's a very interesting setting to have this kind of like early 1900s Imperial Japan setting, with like magic powers, and like it feels like it's more of a historical piece than it is a fantasy piece. It just has fantasy elements in it, and I like that. And like things that they do in that setting, I think are interesting. But I think overall, it drags a bit too much in its exposition dumps.
Yeah. And Yellow Ring just mentioned like, what if we kind of showed instead of told? I almost
Yeah.
feel like the issue that they had was showing, like, I think it was just, it almost feels like they should have had 14 or 16 episodes instead of 12. Like it
Yeah.
feels like that kind. It reminds me of if anybody's ever seen Vision of Escaflowne, which is a really, really old anime.
Oh yeah.
That anime had absolutely perfect pacing, like the most perfect pacing I've ever seen from an anime, until the last season when you could tell that they had fewer episodes than they thought they were going to do, and it suddenly felt super weird. It reminds me of that, where it's like it feels like maybe these were all intended to have a little bit more space to breathe.
Yeah, it's very it's I'm good reference. I love Visions of Escaflowne. It's one I wanted to rewatch.
I love that show.
It's such a good show.
Yeah.
It's on, I think it's still on Funimation. I don't know if they've added it to Crunchyroll. Cuz like they've been doing a thing where like they add everything that was on Funimation to Crunchyroll. I don't think they've moved Visions of Escaflowne over, which is a shame because I really want to rewatch that series and I don't want to get Crunchyroll again. Not Crunchyroll, Funimation again. I have Crunchyroll. I don't have Funimation because why would you get that? Anyway, did it disappear your head thing again? Come on now.
Well, I'm a headless ghosty.
Okay, there it goes. Anyway, Funimation is still online. They just Funimation's online. And you can it's like the only place for some anime. Like I think Fooly Cooly is one also. Visions of Escaflowne is another. It's like some really niche anime that like I love and I want to see, but like it's only on there, and it's like if you buy this full price subscription, you are like you're going to watch like a couple anime and cancel it after a month. because there's no new anime coming to that platform, and it's not getting supported because it's supposed to be transitioned off of. But like they've been taking so long with some series where they just haven't moved them off. It's annoying. It does appear that it's only on Funimation, which is frustrating, but whatever. Visions of Escaflowne is definitely one I would put on your list. It's also like it's a really good mech anime too, actually.
It's like it's the perfect fusion of like sci-fi and fantasy. And it's like high fantasy that's very accessible. Man, when I wasn't expecting, I had like very dim memories of the really terrible English version of Vision of Escaflowne. So when I went back to rewatch the actual show, I was not expecting it to be as excellent as it was.
Yeah, that one was one that got butchered by I believe Fox had that one. Is that right? Pretty sure.
Yeah, all I remember is the opening song for Escaflowne, which it got basically its own like Yu-Gi-Oh card captors opening where they just like piece together a bunch of parts of the show and then are like Escaflowne, Escaflowne, like they do that whole thing.
Oh my god, 90s anime intros, 90s and early 2000s anime intros, American only anime intros are so ridiculous. Some of them are fun. Like I think some of the ones that that 4Kids did for like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff, which is like series that I don't really have much respect for. Like I love Yu-Gi-Oh, but like I don't like see Yu-Gi-Oh as like this grand adventure that like I need to be like, oh wow, it's amazing. It's like a goofy card game anime. So like them having goofy intros, that's fun. Or like One Piece having a goofy intro, that's fun. Visions of Escaflowne, don't do that to the anime. Also some of the best noses in the game. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still put that opening on my iPod. Let's be real, because it did go hard. But they did the thing like they did with Card Captors, where it's technically a shoujo. Like it's arguable, but you could say that it's like a shoujo leading shonen. Like I don't really know. It's like chose that line, but then they were like, no, this girl character, she's a side character, and this boy character, he's the main character, and we're just gonna edit everything to try and make it different. So that's what went wrong there.
And then also they have the Catgirl character, because of course they had to have that character in there as well.
Oh yeah. I did forget about her.
No, great series. I loved it. I love looking back at this one because the art style is so unique, and the animation from that era is really, really, really interesting. It's captivating. Kiss, kiss, fall in love. Do 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 do.
Yeah, I can't sing along with you because I forget that I'm going to be delayed. It's going to sound horrible.
Here. I'm actually gonna pull up the Visions of Escaflowne.
Oh, the American opening? Or
I'm gonna pull up the original opening. Oh yeah.
I'll see if I can.
Here's the
find
Fox
that.
one.
Oh yeah.
Here, let me screen share to you also so that you can.
Yes, I want to hear it. I want to jam.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear audio on there once you have it open. Boop, boop, boop. All right, you see that? Hello.
Oh, sorry. I have the stream open. Also, I can't tell like when you're talking to me.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I see it and I can hear it.
Okay, good. Okay. Also, I really like the dub outtakes for Oron. Half of it is Glass, the director, flubbing all her Haruhi lines. This is a Fox Kids dub. Fox Kids we rag appropriately on 4Kids a lot. Fox Kids did some crazy shit to anime. They're the ones who fucked up Cardcaptor Sakura also.
Which also has a banger opening.
Yes.
But was fucked up.
Yeah. I remember when I rewatched Cardcaptor Sakura, I watched a little bit of the dub, and they do not pronounce Sakura right at all. Not a single one.
Sakura. Her name is Sakura,
Sakura.
Avalon.
Sakura. Same
She's
as
an
Digimon.
American, and she's a brat. Like, she's really mean. I don't know why they did that.
It's such a weird adaptation. Anyway, let's watch this wonderful opening of Escaflowne. They really just find like a sick beat and then put Escaflowne on top of it, like over and over again.
Yeah.
It is pretty sick.
I wasn't lying.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. There's something about I did it right when I paused too. There's something about all like the cuts where like they have like they gotta put like all 3 scenes in there and like put all the action together all on screen in different ways. It's just I don't know. This is such
very 90s.
It's such 90s editing. I don't know. I always think it's really interesting with these openings that they would do in America, because like you would have like the actual like opening that's made the way openings are now. Like in Japan they have like a special made opening that has all of its own like theming and like animation and original to that. And then for these they just take animation from the show and cram it in there.
Yeah. I will say that for this, I think it is an excellent advertisement for the show, because even just like rewatching this, I'm like, yeah, dragons, giant suit, yeah, like it does feel very hype. So they at least got that across the epicness.
You know, it definitely gets across all the wide variety of things you get out of this anime. Okay, this scene though, like this very much feels like this little, I don't know, it feels like such a weird like graphic design is my passion kind of looking page.
But the key there, the key of this image, they put the guy in the middle. Like I'm telling you, they did the same thing with Cardcaptor Sakura. They're like, it's not her story anymore. Who is she?
A story about a female character being engaged into another world, seeing how it affects her, and trying to understand and affect it and make it better in the ways while they also make her better. No, that's boring. Fuck you. We gotta put a guy in here.
Which is, I mean, it's one of the best aspects of Visions of Escaflowne is how it's isekai, and she kind of comes in, and then over the course of the series you begin to root for them as like a group. And I know that's a cliche thing to happen in anime, to the point that like it happens really fast in a lot of anime, but for Visions of Escaflowne, like that transition is like a decent chunk of the emotional and like just overall like plot weight of the show, and they handle it really well. So it's a bummer to try and imagine this version of the show where they basically start on like episode 10 and just try.
I think it's really one of the frustrating things about a lot of fantasy anime and a lot of anime in general. It's like a lot of them will have like this interesting topic and like interesting like mechanic or way that they can like introduce their characters, or like different situations that they want to put their characters in, but most of them don't do the work to like build out A to B. It's just like, and now we are at that point, and it's just like it's like in a lot of anime. I'm currently watching an anime called Goblin Slayer, which is a terrible fantasy anime for a number of reasons that I'm not going to get into because I don't want to discuss it on stream. But there's a lot of things that I do want to talk about it, which is it's really poor storytelling. Right. So like they'll have a thing where like in one episode a character is like, oh, there's a bunch of goblins that are coming to attack this town. they're gonna do this and that, and then I need to rally everyone and like figure out a way to fight to save the town, and then in the next scene they have already done that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad they had decided to ask everyone nicely, and it worked.
Yeah, it's one of the frustrations that I have with a lot of anime is that it feels like to me what are the most interesting aspects of the story are just blown through really fast. Like love stories, we don't actually get a lot of love stories in anime unless it literally is a shoujo love story,
Yeah.
because we only know how to write characters who are already together or characters who are like pining for each other but won't say anything to each other's faces.
Yeah.
And it feels like the same thing with conflict, and also the same thing with like you have this cast of characters, and like theoretically we want to take time to get to know each character and make them a cohesive part of the group, but it just kind of ends up being a like team member of the week
Yeah.
sequence, because we got to get them all in there so we can sell the figures as fast as possible.
Oh, exactly.
It feels like
exactly.
the purpose is for, whereas Ascaflowne was, you know, created in the 90s. Before they were doing that, they were probably selling the mechs figures more so than figures of the characters, and so
yeah, exactly. You didn't have the same kind of merchandising culture. It still, of course, existed. Gundam was a thing. So, like, there's a reason that a lot of anime shows, a lot of animes had mechas at the time. But, like, it is very much, like, there's the difference between, like, one of the big key differences between, like, a all-time anime and, like, a flavor of the week, flavor of the month, flash in the pan type anime for people that's not going to be, no one's going to remember in like a month, is like these type of animes that actually like invest time into like building up their story, you know, and like giving their characters actual moments to like have something outside of, oh, their past is traumatic and sad because bad things happen to them. How do those things really affect them? Are outside of them being filled with rage and wanting to kill goblins? Fuck you. I don't know.
You're misunderstanding the purpose of, I mean, going back to the comfort fic, it's just like that. It's like this, their backstory is just set dressing, just so that we're just putting a character here. We don't need you to interact with them or for them to change. We just need them to have a reason that they're doing things.
Right, exactly. And it's like, I don't know. It's very frustrating for me to like to watch a show. There's a lot of things that are offensive about this show, like really bad things. Never watch it. But like, there's a lot of things that are like really offensive about this show. But I think one of its worst sins is that it'll have moments where like it has the most stilted type of exposition dumps ever. Where like a character walks into a bar, and then you flash to two characters who are sitting in the bar who are like background characters who like, you know, don't like the main character, and they go, oh, it's that character, and they did you hear about when they did this and that and that and this and that? Wow. Or then it goes to another one and it's like, wow, they're talking about this thing that happened. Did you know about this thing that happened where the Demon King rose up in another town and someone else destroyed them? Wow, did you know about this? Did you hear about it? It's like I love when characters talk like I love when characters talk in totally natural ways.
They pulled the Final Fantasy VIII version of like, let's get all these important plot details across to the character and let's hope they overhear it. Let's hope they talk to the NPC. That's rough.
Oh, they have it's really frustrating. It also does a number one of my big sins of anime, which is they talk about like experience. Like it's a thing that you get, you know, and also, there's like a huge thing at the beginning of of like a couple of episodes where they talk about the gods and their dice, and it's like it's like a D20 rolling around. I'm like, okay, you're just being open that this is just a D&D thing. Like it's just as a grim, dark D&D campaign. Okay, cool. At least we're honest about that. But like,
There's a way that could be cool.
yeah, there's a lot of ways that could be cool, and there's anime that do that well. Like I think a really good anime that does that, well, it's also an isekai, which is not something I would normally recommend. I don't know if you would like this anime, but like one that does do that kind of like Dungeons and Dragons type thing well is called Grimgar Fantasy and Ash, which is like a series that has all these characters that form connections and form a group after being thrown into a world and having no recollection of their prior lives, outside of the fact that they know they're from another world, which I think is interesting because like it solves one of the bigger problems with a lot of isekai anime where characters feel completely divorced from their prior life. At least in this way, it's given a reason, and like characters struggle with their identity because they know they have personalities, but they don't know where they came from or what their past experience was, which I think is an interesting thing that they do, and try to build off of. But like, it is an actual show that has like stakes to its characters, where like some characters will die and things will happen, and like there's drama and tension because you don't know if a character will live throughout the show or what will happen. It's like, okay, that's interesting. There's some inherent drama to this, as opposed to this other show, which had like a whole bunch of grim, dark, horrible things happen in its first episode, and then just didn't do that anymore. And I was just like, that's just to shock you.
Oh.
That's all just shock value. The rest of the show, all the characters are very competent and never are in any real danger. Except,
I don't understand what who the market is.
Edgy 16-year-old boys who think that they are the Goblin Slayer because they got mad at a thing once, and when they put on a helmet, they have glowing red eyes as they level up their power.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, it only works if it's a good version of that, right? Like, if you're gonna give me the 16-year-old fanfic, then go all the way, damn it. I want to believe that, like, your inner teenager wrote this story. Okay, there is a world for that kind of thing.
I think there actually is, speaking of another anime actually this year that was really good, that there is an anime that is exactly that, where it's called Eminence in Shadow, also an isekai, but it's about this guy who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world. Firen does it better. Yeah, it does. But it's about this guy who gets isekai'd into a fantasy world, but like in the real world, he would like go out and fight crime, because like he had this lifelong obsession with like the Vegeta-like characters of a show, where it's like they're a protagonist, but like they're edgy and dark and like mysterious, and like they have a mysterious backstory, and like he wants to be like that so bad, right? Like he doesn't want to be the protagonist. He wants to be like the character in the shadows doing the mastermind stuff, you know? And so he gets, he dies and gets reincarnated into this other world. And so he like decides to like, to do all of that. And like over his adventure, he like forms this organization, and like tells people in this organization, like he makes up a story that like, oh, there's this cult that to the Demon King that was killed, and they're gonna go and they're trying to do all these different kind of things, and it's our goal to stop them, when he's just like fighting random crime. He doesn't think any of it's connected. And then like the weird thing that the show does is that the main character thinks that he's being edgy and ridiculous, and he's like, this isn't real, I'm just playing around, when in reality everything that he has said is actually happening in this world. Where like he it doesn't imply, it doesn't seem like he has control over it, like that he's making it happen, but like a Haruhi situation, where Haruhi wants something to occur in the world and it does because she's God. But like he he will like think like, oh, I think this should happen, this would be a fun story, and then things happen like that, and he's like, okay, we're just gonna go with it. It's weird.
Interesting.
It's weird.
I feel like the premise that you gave me there was like very strong, of like, oh, I'm the protagonist, but I want to be the cool, fun side character, and then like everything that you said after that doesn't feel like they did a lot with that core conflict.
Yeah. So I mean, there is like a continual thing that happens in the show where like he tries to defer, like any kind of hero situation. Like whenever that happens, he's like, I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want to be the hero. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna avoid this. And like they try to make it more comedic, right? Where like he'll just try to act edgy, and like the show makes that like a joke, right? That like, look at this character obviously being edgy and practicing lines to like seem like they're cool. Like they're overpowered, but like they're also trying to seem like mysterious and cool. And isn't that weird? I don't know. It's an interesting show. It feels like they're trying to do more with that kind of like fantasy, at least, of like
Yeah.
being like a edgy cool guy character.
Well, especially for a show, because you brought this up in relation to like a teen fantasy.
Yeah.
That's a very compelling, like, that's a feeling a lot of teens have is like, I don't want to be this boring thing. Like, I want to be the edgy cool guy. I want to be
Yeah.
the Chad, like, and like, it would be, and this is like, again, kind of one of my frustrations with or like a lot of the anime that's out there is that it's like, that's compelling. Would you like to, like, have a statement about that? Like,
Yeah.
is he gonna eventually come to accept the fact that he's a protagonist? Is he going to like learn that being the side character is not everything it's chalked up to be? Is he gonna actually be able to change himself and become the side character?
Hmm.
And like he loves it and he found his true self. And it's like a lot of anime just kind of drop it in favor of whatever the like the actual, I say actual plot, but it feels like less of the actual plot to me. Like it feels
Yeah.
like the inner conflict is the plot, but instead they're like, we beat the big bad, woo, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, wait, but
Was that the
you
focus?
didn't resolve. Yeah, I'm like, you didn't resolve this character's core conflict. Hang on, come back.
Yeah, that is like a thing because like they want to like I think a lot of anime gets stuck in that. It's the same way that animes get stuck in like harems, because like the
Mm-hmm.
idea of a character making a choice and changing in some kind of way, or like choosing a future, is not something they want, because that means that they can't make stories based around the same setting. You would have to, because like I think well
You'd
a
have
lot
to
of
be
anime,
creative.
yeah, exactly. Like a lot of what anime do, a lot of what modern anime do is they will have characters, try to give them a unique hook, and then put them in one of the 15 stories you've heard before, that are common in anime. And like, well, what if we do this
Mm-hmm.
story but with this character and with this setup and with these designs and with this booby lady next to him? What do you like? This is this better? Is this more compelling? Let's do that repeatedly, in all these different kinds of ways. And if you change that, you then have a different show where like you actually have to think of the next beat for the character.
And our anime like really expensive to make? I feel like we're basically seeing the same thing happen with movies where um I feel like a lot of
Some
people are
are.
kind of getting burnt out on Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Um but it's like, and with games too, it just costs so much now to make them that like
Hmm.
they're like, well, let's not like let's not like challenge ourselves with something new. Like what if
Yeah.
we lose out on $500 million? That sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah, it's like one of those things like, well, we could make we could take a gamble and adapt a show that like has doesn't have as marketable characters, doesn't put its characters in skimpy outfits, or like have like mega bazoom zonkers. It's like we could do all these type of things, or we could adapt this one series that's basically a ripoff of like these 15 other shows that people like, and we could pump out a whole bunch of figures because like 15-year-old boys want the new hot waifu figure, and we can make money off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And we could
Yeah.
also make
And
money
I
because
feel
we
like
made this like a mature series, so that when you buy when the Blu-ray comes out, which is a huge thing in Japan, is when Blu-rays come out. The Blu-ray's uncensored, so people will love to buy the Blu-ray, and that's where they make a lot of their money.
mm, yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that that goes with why like love stories in anime are also just kind of terrible, is because
Yeah.
a lot of the characters are mostly just like cute designs with some kind of moe quirk attached to them. Although Yellowring, I'm curious to know, because Yellowring a bit back said, admittedly, love stories are hard to write. When I was like, love stories in anime are trash. And I'm curious about like which aspect of those you're finding difficult, because they can be difficult, but I feel like specifically with anime, the issue, um I feel like there is a, again, to contrast with My Happy Marriage, what My Happy Marriage does really well is it wades into the space of what is emotional intimacy?
Yeah.
Like, how would these two characters genuinely interact with each other? How would they develop feelings given where these two characters start out? And
Yeah.
like, how would they try to communicate to each other? And it feels very organic and beautiful, and I ship them really hard because of it. Or like, Hawkeye and Mustang, my forever like one true pairing. They're so good.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but like they're a love story, and they don't even really have romance scenes
Not
actually.
at all. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I feel like, and admittedly, both of these two things are like they're very unique situations, and like you're probably not going to find something like that in a shonen. Well, no, what am I saying? Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a shonen. Never mind.
Full
And
Alchemist
actually,
though is a shonen written by a woman though, who actually had who
yeah,
actually like invested time into her characters, and to caring about what their emotions were.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, Yellow Ring. Like, I agree with you that romance is difficult. I was just wondering which part,
Yeah.
which difficult part was the difficult part you had in mind.
Her writing is
um,
difficult. Like it's not easy. Like
yeah, I mean, like I'm sitting here like, yeah, the first game that I released was just a romance game, so it's like, you know, here we are.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But it's because of this, because I am like this now. I find myself like um struggling with a lot of shows that handle things, just because I don't know. I'm an internal conflict kind of girl. I don't
Mhm.
really stories that have a big plot, but it's all external and there's no reason for the character to care about the plot aside from like the world's gonna end and we live in the world. Like, I need the character to have a personal attachment or something that they're trying to overcome,
Right.
and hopefully something better than just I want to protect my loved ones, because that, like, I don't know how to attach to characters who like that is their only motivation for doing
Yeah.
what they do. Um yeah, and I feel like anime just doesn't authentically explore a lot of which, and this is a very broad stroke. I guess like a lot, the anime that churns every season doesn't tend to cover that, and then you
Yeah.
get random excellence like a Silent Voice, and you get good stuff out there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like there's the few things that like there's the few good ones, but like most of it is trash. And like even like the popular shows, they have a very limited um they have a limited capacity to actually delve into something deeper than surface level, right? Because like you have I don't know. I like the when you're talking about like the a character having to deal with like a personal conflict. I think the best thing that they added on to that I was gonna put chime in on was like authentically actually diving into that, because like
Mm.
you'll have characters like Goblin Slayer. The main character does have like a personal thing that he's like trying to overcome, where like his family was killed by goblins, and that's why he has dedicated his life to killing goblins. But like
Compelling.
and like they will have like scenes where it's like look at him like struggling with the fact that his family is dead and he's sad about it, and he had to do all these things to like train and to like kill a part of himself that was happy. And I'm like, I maybe would
Oh,
feel I would maybe feel something about this. I would maybe care about this if the character had anything to them outside of they're good at killing goblins, and sometimes they don't talk
yeah.
much, and that's it.
Yeah, there's a lot you can say about Attack on Titan, but with that first season, I think the thing that it did really well was get you to really care about like the amount of fear the characters were feeling, and
Yeah.
like how intense those odds felt, even though with Attack on Titan it was just like we've got to kill the thing and like that, and they all had reasons, but it's pretty much the same, like a family, like my family was killed by goblins. It's like kind of similar,
Yeah.
but the emotional, authenticity of that concept was there.
I think what
And
Attack on Titan also did really well is that like every single character basically is dealing with that trauma in some sort of way of like the main
mhm.
character's dealing with their whole family dying, but so is everyone else. Like everyone else had the same thing happen to them. And
Yeah, there's a realism to the concept of like societal trauma. What happens
mhm,
when a society undergoes trauma, and like how do people learn to interact with each other there? So it felt very real.
mhm. Yeah, I think that it like contrasts like Aaron's reaction in Attack on Titan from like Mikasa and Armin, because like all these characters had their families die, and like most of them in front of them, uh but like they don't those other characters don't have like a visceral hatred of Titans or of their enemy. They're not like they don't get like overly angry and obsessive, where Aaron does, and like that does become his entire personality is being angry. um and
Mhm.
I think one of the things that is interesting about Attack on Titan is how they stick with that in a lot of ways. They stick with like Aaron's obsession and anger, and how that leads him to a lot of bad places. Where other characters who have dealt with the same amount of who've dealt with in a lot of ways the same trauma, the same traumatic situations, don't choose that. Don't decide to become a fucking psychopath, for lack of a better
Mhm.
term. Um, it's like they have different ways to like build off of it and like be like, okay, what can I do to like make a world that I would want to live in, or like that I can actually prosper in, instead of like just being like, I'm angry and I hate everyone and I'm gonna kill them all. And it's,
One of the things that I love the most about just that first season of Attack on Titan was
yeah.
that like looking into the psychology behind traumatic events and stuff,
Mhm.
um, people who undergo that kind of thing when they're really young tend to build really outsized um, fight or flight responses, but it falls into the categories of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Mhm.
And I thought that the show showed that really well, showed a bunch of people who had like different combinations of those. So like Aaron's fight
Yeah.
and Mikasa, you would think she's a fight, but she's arguably like a freeze where she basically just like kind of completely shuts down everything except this one aspect of her where she's like, this is my life now, this is what I'm dedicated to, and everything
Yeah.
else doesn't matter. And it's kind of like a form of escapism. And even Arwen, who seems to be um kind of stable. I would argue that he's more of like a fawn reaction, which in our society we don't really acknowledge fawn reactions because people with fawn reactions are like nice and friendly and kind and just like really kind. And
Yeah.
so we tend to look at those people and think they're really healthy and grounded, like they're totally fine when like no, they're not totally fine. Like they don't know how to do anything other than be nice and
Yeah.
to their own detriment.
They have like a
Um
they're doing a more of a people pleaser kind of mindset.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like so then you have to contrast that where it's like that was grounded in something that felt real, so you could relate to each of those characters because it's like they felt very real.
Yeah.
And then you have like the goblin slayer who's just like, I'm gonna train and be strong, like it's really like not the same.
It's literally like it's like someone like took the lesson from like Batman, right? And it's like, what if we just stripped away more things from Batman that made him interesting? Or like let's just make him the brooding, stoic, like angry type who trains a lot and does this one thing with all their time. Let's just make
Like
that the character.
y'all know I have bones to pick about Batman, but I'm just like,
Yeah.
you guys, Batman tells you not to be like he says he's a freak. He is. He's like he is stuck in his trauma reaction and he literally doesn't know how to step out of this fake character he's created for himself.
Mhm.
He's a very traumatized individual and it's
Yeah.
not okay just because he can kill things. I mean not kill things,
Yeah.
depending on which version of Batman we're talking about.
Yeah. And like a
Whatever.
lot of versions of Batman are just like, what if we take that and just make him a goofball?
Yeah.
Or
I
like
mean that at
yeah,
least is like charming in its own
yeah,
way.
yeah, exactly. There's some charm. There's some there's something interesting you're doing with that. But like, I don't know, it's this at least with like Batman, he has like this like he has Batman isn't always angry. Like he knows how to be a person with people. Like he can like interact normally and like have full conversations and like think about like what he's doing and sometimes realize that he's wrong and change his ways. And like he can feel very human in a lot of ways. A lot of anime characters, they don't do that, you know? They're like, this character is right, and he's always right. That's just what it is. His character is just correct. I think he's wrong. He's wrong about something. Fuck off. Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Even with like Batman, I would argue like he's not really able to do that with people because he's like he like can't form relationships. I mean, it depends on which version we're talking about, but like, he really struggles there. And that's the thing with anime. They're just like, look at this ragtag team. I'm just like, what? No anime character feels really grounded. And to Yellow Ring's point about like having trouble with characters and character-driven writing, romance in particular is the genre where I would argue having a character that feels like a real person is the most important thing that you like can do in that genre. And you really need to make them not just feel like a real person, but feel like a unique and authentic individual who is falling in love with another unique and authentic individual who you could meet on the street somewhere. And anime strays so far from that and so hard from that the relationships that end up being portrayed kind of skew more towards the fanfic archetypes that I saw when I was a kid, where it's more about like, what roles are these characters playing for each other? Like, this is the protector and this is the one who needs protecting in this given scene, or she's the shy girl, and like, you know, like just these roles that the characters are filling.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It feels very limited. Like the amount of things you get from a character in a lot of anime shows feel very limited because it doesn't feel like they're ever really just interested in diving into anything about them, you know? Or like to build up that kind of unique personality or like mindset or identity, you know, outside of like they're more looking for like identifiable traits to like separate them from like to like they're trying to fit them into like the character box and to be like, how can how I put the character in this box of the archetype that I want, and then I'm gonna like, you know, change a few different things so that it feels like it's my own work, you know? Like I plagiarized Taiga from Toradora, but like I made them taller and I made them less mean, and also they're poor. There we go, different character.
Well done. Very quite excellent.
Yeah.
I feel like have you seen Anohana?
I have, yeah.
So did you like it? Actually, yeah, I'm curious.
I did like it. I thought it was a very I watched it all in one go. Actually, after I moved into this place, Caitlin came over afterwards, and like we had like a Halloween movie marathon where we were just hanging out after like separating, you know. And we watched the last thing we did was like watch Anohana together. We'd like binge watch through it, and like watching all 11 episodes in a row was like really affecting. It's like, damn, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I also liked it. I don't know what the name of the genre that it occupies is, but it's part of this kind of nostalgic, emotional driven kind of like Air and Clanad like show. And
I get what you mean.
Yeah, I liked it, but I feel like even though it was trying to go after, like, I feel like it suffers from the same problem of what we're talking about, where like at the end of the day a lot of the characters still felt really shallow to me, and it felt like they were tackling a very big issue. And like, again, I thought it was good. I thought they handled it fine,
Yeah.
but the emotional depth still didn't fully hit me. Like, I'm more impacted by the uh, ending song, which is like about friends like who are like together for a summer and like missing their friend. They want to like, one friend has moved away and they're not going to see each other, and they're
Mhm.
reminiscing about this time that they spent together in summer. That one song evokes much more emotion for me than like the entirety of that series
Yeah.
did. um because it felt, there was a level, I don't want to say inauthentic because I don't think it was inauthentic, but it just felt somewhat false, or
Lacking.
yeah, lacking in some way.
Yeah. Um. Well, I'll get to that in a moment. I do have something I want to say about that because Toradora is one of my favorite anime. Um, I can like things anyway. No, I do understand what you mean though. Where like a lot of the characters do feel like, again, this problem of like a lot of them feel like archetypes, and like
Hmm.
um, they have like their own, they have personalities and different things that they do, and some of them aren't like as commonly used archetypes, but they are all archetypes. Like there's the funny friend who's a bit chubby, there's the main character friend, there's the guy who's a bit of a snob, and mean, but like deep down he has a nice heart,
The
and
Koizumi, like
yeah,
the Itsuki from Haruhi.
exactly, yeah. um there's all these like, there's like the best friend main character, there's the best friend girl character, there's the other girl character who doesn't get as much characterization, and people think is more,
She's shy.
she's shy. And like the like it's still all built off of like typical archetypes, and like while I think the story they told was really affecting because like it's I think it's really affecting because like it's interesting to have a story where they do talk about this kind of stuff and like those kind of like interpersonal relationships, and dealing with the death of a friend. Um, like that's something unique that you don't really see that much in anime, and that can always be very, very easy to like get you to buy into that. But like, yeah, I
Hmm.
do agree that the characters themselves didn't have as much unique about them specifically. You know, where I didn't feel like there
Hmm.
was something like, I don't remember any of those characters' names. I don't remember much about
Yeah.
their wants or desires outside of wanting to reconcile the fissure that's grown between them because of what happened, right? Um,
Yeah.
and like that kind of lacking of depth to their side of things here, outside of like, I think the main character gets something more to him, and like of
Yeah, I
course
agree.
the character who passed away, a lot of time spent with her and like understanding her, or like talking about her at least. But like all other characters get like a couple minutes and like the overall time, because they get like a part of an episode, but like in real time that's like a few minutes. So it's like, how
Hmm.
much did I really learn about this? How much did they really take the time to build them up? I think it works without it, but it would have been better with it.
Yeah. Well, and I think my criticism of the genre as a whole is that they tend to, I more so with like Air and Clannad, they tend to tackle these heavy topics to where it's like, of course you're gonna cry. It's an objectively sad thing that's happening. There's beautiful music playing, there's beautiful things happening, and
Yeah,
they didn't completely fail. So it's like, of course it's gonna be emotionally impacting,
yeah,
but there's this layer of almost like melodrama, which I feel like again with the main character and the friend who passed away, I feel like that had the most depth and there was like a real thing there. But then like related to the broader story that they were trying to tell about these friendships falling apart, I'm like, I don't feel that aspect being there.
yeah. Some of it felt really very forced, and like like ways of like, I mean, like different characters had different views of the main character, and like different forms of blame that was being thrown around that didn't feel realistic, or
Yeah.
like didn't feel like something that I can relate to. Like I think there's like the asshole character who's like very much like blaming the main character for what happened, and it's like, I don't know if you can. Like I understand like how grief works and how people can blame things on people out of grief and stuff, but like you also have to make that believable in the story. Like you have to make me as an audience member buy into that feeling and to like see their side of things when I just can't.
Yeah.
I can't get their perspective on this.
He was really out there on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is he supposed to do? You're all like 8.
Yeah. I'm like, this is, yeah, there wasn't a lot there.
Yeah.
Um,
Because like you then you remove any kind of like their intentions to like make you feel connected to that character, but I'm not feeling connected to them. I just feel like they're a bit diluted.
Yeah. And so like everybody's fighting, and I'm like, oh, I want to care about how they're fighting, but like, I don't know. I don't know that any of these people should be friends. Like, just like, it's like, I don't know that I care about whether they stay friends or not. I want this one guy to get over his grief, and the rest of them, I want them to, like, also heal. But
yeah.
I don't know. They hate each other. Like,
these like, two characters like, don't like each other at all.
Yeah, they show me the kid flashbacks when they're hanging out, and I'm like, okay, so they like had a fort and caught bugs. I'm like, oh, this is not doing anything for me.
I cannot relate.
I can't relate. Yeah. What are friends?
Exactly. It is. Yeah. It's one of those things like where you have. I think people get lost in that part of things, especially like with discourse that happens with the anime a lot online. One of the things I have to like, I struggle arguing against with people is people will get a show or an anime like Anohana that makes them feel something, right? That gives them like an emotional, like revelation, at some point in time, during the length of the show, and like it has like a feeling of like, really going through something throughout the actual through the series, and like that resolution feels very impactful, no matter like what happened beforehand. Like that, it's an impactful climax to a show. People will take that feeling and only focus on that, and not consider like the other parts of a story that don't really work, or like want to have a nuanced discussion about where that kind of story falls flat, and where it needed to be better, to actually fully connect to some people. Like for you, for instance, where you couldn't connect to a large aspect of it. I'll say not everyone's a critic. No, everyone thinks they are though.
Everyone does think they are, but also like more than just not everyone's a critic. I feel like there's an aspect to stories where you can lead someone to an emotional catharsis, and that emotional catharsis might not actually have been earned. And we forget that there's a sad equivalent to shock value. Like there is a version of that where it's just like, you made me feel things because you presented me with something that's sad, and like did it very beautifully.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you actually said anything about it. Or sometimes like you as a person are having thoughts and feelings about what's going on in the show, and it's great that that show evoked that from you, but that doesn't mean that the show is addressing what you are like concluding from it, if that makes sense.
I think sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think a really a good encapsulation of this, actually, I think, is the beginning of Up. And because like the rest of that movie, no one talks about, like, at all. It's all the beginning, right? Because the beginning made you feel something, but like you don't know anything really about those characters, and you don't really get like a really strong payoff for them at the end. Um, like you get like the broad strokes of one, but like there's a reason no one talks about the rest of that movie. It's because it's not as impactful and it's not as there's not as much to like. It gets really goofy and weird, but like the beginning of Up is very sad, and it all have like it takes you on a roller coaster of like, oh, they're happy together, death, they can't have a child, death, it's sad. And like you're going on like a roller coaster ride in like a couple minutes, and that's impressive. Like it's impressive how they did it, but like again, that's just them just showing you sad things happening, and like that's impactful because like it was in front of a Pixar movie, and like wow, that's crazy. But like, did they actually tell you like a really interesting story? Like, was there anything like actually like
I
in its present, like in its writing, like was there actually anything to that has like a lasting impact?
I
'Cause I didn't feel one
I
personally.
haven't actually seen the rest. I haven't actually seen the rest of Up, so
No
I
one
cannot
has.
comment on how it relates to Up. I just watched the opening. um, but I think that why, in particular, the opening of Up works really well is because it's basically a short story.
Yeah,
Like it feels like one of those shorts at the beginning of a Pixar movie that they used to show. And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
the core conflict in the story is that they had this dream that they shared together. They wanted a kid, and like then they couldn't have a kid. And for a lot of couples, that is such a painful hurt that the relationship is destroyed. And they managed to like make it work, which then shows us how large the loss is for him and why he's like where he's at.
yeah.
That being said, it sounds like they don't really do a lot with like,
No,
you
not
know, so
really.
we understand he has this huge loss, but then they don't do anything to like provide closure. So if you just cut off the rest of Up and presented that movie, I don't know if it would be a like I don't know if it would be a fulfilling like story. I think it would make a good short, but a lot of those shorts are designed to like make you feel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess you have a point there.
yeah. It's just like it. I don't know. It feels like Up basically felt like it was a movie that was like this like really captivating way to tell a short, sad, emotional roller coaster story. That's also like beautiful in a way, but also in the end sad. And then they're like, oh crap, we got to put a movie on this. He puts a bunch of balloons on his house and goes to South America and to a place that she wanted to go to, and that's it. And there's another character in there, there's a talking dog who wants to chase a squirrel. Kids
Mm.
movie. Anyway,
I
that
think
I don't know.
I think a better maybe encapsulation of this kind of genre is like the person who has a disability and is now an
Oh
inspiration
God.
story. I think like that's a better because I feel like where a lot of these stories go wrong for me with like Air and Clanad and like Anohana had this like a little bit, but like Anohana handled it really well to where they were like, no, this is happening as part of the character's grief. But where they go wrong is that they end up kind of dehumanizing the character who's going through the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like somebody dealing with illness, like, or a long-term illness, like The Fault in Our Stars, kind of, which, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, people have a lot of different feelings about how good or bad The Fault in Our Stars is. But you have these stories where people are dealing with terminal illness or a disability and then like it's kind of this sappy like surface level like how beautiful, what an inspiration, and not like a real story about what it is to like live with those disabilities, what it is to you know it's like inspiration porn rather than an actual exploration of what it is to be a person with a chronic illness,
Yeah.
because the whole point is that we got to get to an uplifting ending that makes you feel.
Yeah.
And so there are these versions of the story where the emotional impact of it feels like a manipulation of like, oh, don't you feel so sorry for the girl who's going to die in Air? Like, don't you feel so sorry for her? It's so sad. And like,
Yeah.
and they're in love and it's going to be so sad. and like that's it.
Yeah. I think that's a very that's a very much a Hollywood problem. Also, Hollywood has this issue consistently. I don't know if it has as much anymore because like you don't really get a lot of these kind of movies anymore. But like it was definitely an issue in the early 2000s and the 90s, especially where like every movie felt like they had to have like some kind of uplifting message at the end or some kind of like uplifting like uh and if you try hard enough, life will turn out okay. Uh, kind of like message to it here, which I feel like just cheapens everything. Um,
Yeah.
it's
It's
like,
like if they did Old
okay,
Yeller,
cool.
but then instead of it being like an important message about, like life being, growing up and making hard decisions and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead, they were just like really focusing on how awful it is that Old Yeller died, and look at how tragic it
Mm-hmm.
is for this poor kid. Like, oh my God, like that kind of emotional manipulation where it's like, we're not using this for a purpose. We are just trying to make you feel a thing.
Yeah. Um, yeah. It's very odd. It's very odd. Like I don't know. It's just it's strange how frequently that kind of story structure comes up and how it is routinely effective. Like there's a lot of shows that do it really well, but it is very much a problem where like they can't get over the hump to actually like fully realize these characters. I do want to go back to this real quick though, to what the Watley said about Toradora. Watched Toradora for the first time earlier this year. The ending gave me some whiplash from the tone from the rest of the show. Toradora's ending reminded me of The Graduate. I can feel that. Yeah. I would. The one thing I only have to mention this because I had some TikToks and some reels actually of my Toradora video that did really well. Where people will comment on it saying that like, oh, I hated the ending, and then someone would respond to that comment being like, did you watch to like the end of the credits? And someone was like, the end of the credits, because like Toradora has like their conclusive ending at the end of the credits, and a lot of people miss that because like it does tie it up to be like a really satisfying ending. But if you don't know that's there, the ending can feel really weird. So I do want to
Hold on,
clarify
let
that
me
first off.
hang on. I gotta go and just check and see if I watched the ending scene because I remember the endings felt really weird to me too.
The
Like I
ending does
also was
feel
like
weird.
that,
I'm
but
not gonna
also
lie.
the entire back half of that anime felt weird to me.
Yeah,
Actually,
there's very much a narrative shift that happens after uh it's the sports festival arc, I believe. Was it right before the sports festival? I gotta do my I'm gonna do my Toradora rewatch in the next couple days here because like I always rewatch it during Christmas time because the Christmas arc is one of my favorites. But uh yeah, like the back half of that series definitely has a very tonal shift to it. Um, sorry. Uh, Carl and Muntz, the antagonists, both struggle to leave behind the past, but because Carl had people to be there with him, he was finally able to move on. Muntz never did. Yeah, I get that. I get like what they're trying to do and up. I just didn't feel like I didn't really buy into it. Like I didn't feel like Carl's connection with the characters that he had gone on this journey with was genuine and not just like he was with some characters for a while, so therefore they're all friends now. I don't feel like that's enough. I feel like I needed more. But that's just the movie up. Anyway, um, that's the sort of takeaway I got from Elfen Lied. Oh God. Instead of uplifting, it was like self-righteous revenge porn, and I kind of think the creator was actually getting off on character suffering. You've tapped into the problem with all seinen anime, and also one of the problems with Goblin Slayer. So yeah, it's just like a thing. I don't want to drag Kara into this kind of conversation, because like it's I don't even like having the conversation much on like a public format because like there's a lot of problems with anime and like how it gets into abuse, trauma, and especially trauma around women, which is very gross and just Not a fun topic. But yeah,
Indeed. I
yeah,
have Elfen Lied, and yeah, I agree with you. I agree with your take on Elfen Lied. That was a
yeah.
uncomfortable show. I
You
will
are
say though,
correct.
Love
Yes.
Live is technically seinen as well.
Love Live is
Um,
saying
I feel like Love Live is sincere as all get out. But okay, I actually just met
yeah, that
somebody.
does make that. Seinen has a weird cutout for like cute girl stuff.
Yeah, I just met. I think like it's interesting to me because I just met a new person and like they like Love Live and we were like, oh my God, this extremely niche thing we share. And it's funny to me how many of the like Love Live fandom that exists, how many of them have stories of I was depressed and like the positivity of Love Live got me through. And like that's the whole like that's pretty much the
Yeah,
whole fan base. And I know that there's the creepy ones out there, but like I don't know. I think it's really interesting this specific branch of seinen where it's basically like adult men who don't have a safe outlet for like emotions, and
yeah,
so they go to this like wholesome emotional like it's honestly no different from like I'm gonna go talk to like my female friend or
yeah.
slash my wife slash my mom. It's like women fulfill this role and like they don't have that, so they go to this wholesome anime about female characters who are very emotional and like we can do it, push through the hardships kind of thing.
We've never talked about this topic, but that nails it right on. That hits the nail on the head perfectly because like, um, yeah, that's like cute girls who do cute things. The anime genre is seinen, and it is purely about that. That's correct. Yeah, that's totally like dead on. I did a video early this year on Bocchi the Rock, which is it's a cute girls who do cute things anime about this girl with severe anxiety with like dealing with people, but like they became a closet guitar player and like posted no face guitar videos on YouTube and got pretty popular through that. And like they wanted to like join a band, but like are too awkward to. And then it's a story of them joining a band and all that kind of stuff. It's really cute. It's really cute anime. I love it a lot. One of my criticisms of it that I get flack for is that I criticize the fact that I don't like cute girls who do cute things as an anime specifically, because like I feel like an aspect of it is what you're saying, of course, where like they do that kind of thing because like it is a way to like is a form of like pure escapism of cuteness and like something relaxing you can sink into, and like have a relief in.
Mm-hmm.
But like I also feel very weird about the genre because I feel like its focus on cute girl characters being marketed towards adult men could just come off a bit really weird,
Yeah.
and like express itself in a lot of really different forms that I think can be
Yeah.
very exploitative and like
Yes.
like it can rob stories of emotional depth
Mm-hmm.
because like they're not really aiming for that, right? Bocchi the Rock is a story I really like, but it would have more emotional depth, I think, if there were like her dad's an important figure in that, and her dad like in the actual story is an important figure. Her dad in the actual anime and like the cartoon is non-existent. Like her dad is like where she gets like her first guitar and like a little bit of the inspiration to get into that, and like someone who's been like quietly and like publicly like supporting her, and like really loves that his like daughter is like taking up an interest that he has as well. But you never like you only have like one scene where he talks, and like it's not really
Mm.
it's a good scene, but like you don't really have as much of the impact that I would have liked and like a lot of the depth I would have liked to like have like a conversation like understanding between like a father and a daughter, and like how her parents are really supporting her and trying to like be helpful to her, or like other characters. Like it's an all-female band, which cool, that's great, I have no problems with that, but like there are no other like male characters in the music scene, which I also think like as someone who is in a music scene, I think it's more interesting to like tell a story about what it's like to be in those scenes and like why it's important that they are a female band and like what makes that interesting. In a society where you don't see that as much, and like
Yeah.
like what's kind of rewarding about like being an all-female group, you know, because it is different. Like you have to, I don't know, because like it's not a space that has that has people who step into that role for a lot of like sexist reasons, you know, and patriarchal reasons, and ignoring that aspect of a story because we want to just be cute and non-confrontational feels very emotionally like I'm missing on something that could be like this story that's great could be so much better if it had that more like emotional honesty to it. But we're not going to get into that because the story doesn't want to be controversial.
Yeah, I honestly I really agree because like I'm super I actually really like seinen with an asterisk. Um and I've
Yeah,
found I've discovered actually that there is a huge like queer ladies love seinen
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Um and but like so there's a sliding scale of shows. And so on the one side I would put the example of Love Live, where at least the first series was a genuine, like, heartfelt, like, let's talk about how these characters are like struggling to achieve their dream and have them face real struggles and overcome them. And it was like an actual emotional story. And then on the other sliding scale, you have like I don't know if it's fair to say K-On! Because I've never actually seen K-On!, but I've never seen K-On! Because I looked at it and I was like, that seems like a moe girl show that's gonna veer into the creepy. And like, I don't know how I feel about even if the show's not creepy, I feel like all the marketing around it's gonna be like, you know what they're doing.
The worst
Um,
people on the internet have K-On! Avatars.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I believe like my understanding of the show is that like sure they like face things and like whatever, but it's not that deep. Like it is just meant to be like cute
Nah.
girls being very moe and like wink wink nudge nudge, aren't they? Wink wink nudge nudge cute.
Yeah,
Um
that is
and
exactly
so
what
seinen
K-On! is like.
covers
You're right. Yes.
yes, exactly. And so there's this broad scale between like you could pass this off for a shojo all the way to like nope this is creepy.
Hmm.
um and on the like I feel like the ones that lack the emotional depth are like tend for me at least to be on the creepier side because like that's why they lack like we are not treating these characters like they're people for a reason like
Yeah.
yeah versus other seinen which in my experience you can find a lot of the more like let's actually act like these characters are characters, let's actually explore their feelings
Hmm.
here than in like shojo or obviously shonen. I'm like struggling to think of another genre where you find that.
Yeah. I mean, like with I think you've done like hit the nail on the head there. Like K-On! I like K-On!. You know, I enjoyed watching it when I was younger, and I was in like when I was like 19, 18. You know, cause like it was a chill anime. Maybe the same studio that did Haruhi. Great, it's wonderful. But it does have like no emotional depth, and a lot of it does end up being like, look how cute these characters are. Look at them in cute outfits. Look at one of the girl characters being a little pervy. Don't worry about it. It's fine. They don't show anything, but like, you know, like they don't get to like weird like it doesn't cross the line of having like a creepy scene where characters are like half dressed and stuff. Not that I can remember. Um if it did, I blacked that out. But it does get to like, let's put the main character in a gothic Lolita outfit, you know? Like these
Hmm.
characters in these kind of
I
cute
mean just the
outfits. You know?
surrogate perv character is enough for me like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
you know.
But it's in like a cool, playful way that girls totally act like. I know it's fine. I don't know. It has this and it's frustrating because like I will have people who are not honest about what these series are, or maybe just aren't aware. I think a lot of it's just like people aren't aware who will like listen to like a criticism of these shows like that and say, well, this is meant to be like a happy show for this is like just a happy, like relaxing thing for like the female audience. And I'm like, but it's not, one, it's not for the female audience. It's not who it's intended for. Whether or not people afterwards do enjoy it like that, because like a lot of women do, queer women especially, that is a thing that happens with sending anime. Like sure, yeah, but that's not who that's not who they're targeting. Like when these books are put, like these big magazines are putting it out, they don't have that person in mind, because like they don't care about that. They have in mind specifically the Japanese young man who is dealing with the crushing realities of the capitalist system they live under. They need a cute thing to like make their lives feel less miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the role that genre is supposed to play. It's weird.
Yeah, which I feel like there is something to be said for, like, again, like, societally the emotional burden falls on women. So if you are a man who doesn't have a woman in your life, how do you safely express emotions? Like, and also you're in Japan, so therapy is not no. There's a space for that, but then yeah, there's also the space where it gets weird. And there is an overlap as well, like teenage girls, especially for like Love Live. Teenage girls love Love Live. Like there's a big, like, women are a big part of that audience, but also they're not a part of the audience that like is the whales, right? Like they're not the ones buying the figures and like spending all the money at the shows because they're teenagers. So that's not, you're welcomed here, but you're not the target.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's actually like one of the big things that's like the thing that's always kind of confusing about a lot of people in the anime community. Also, Watley, this is what K-On! Is. It's a cute anime about these high school girls who are in a music club and form a band together. It is cute. The music's fun. It's one of the first moe anime. Not a lot happens. It's very low stakes.
If you've seen Azumanga Daioh, it's the moe version of that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like an anime that was like big at the time because like it was like the first of its kind of, like this is like the birth of like modern, like mainstream moe for people. But
right around the time of Toradora, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right after Haruhi came out, they brought the K-On! Was next. By the same team, like I think same director too. But anyway, sorry, what was I saying? I had a point.
Talking about the overlap of the, like how teen girls sometimes like it, but it's not who you're targeting, and whales and
Sorry. So like it's this weird kind of fascination I see with a lot of like I've seen with a lot of guys in this space. Like a lot of men want to, even though this is demonstrably not true for anime, but a lot of men like to say that like to act like women liking manga or anime is like rare or something, when it's very much not. Like most of the reason that I'm into anime the way that I am is because of a lot of women around me, introducing me to new shows and like getting me involved in like going to like anime conventions and things like that. Like it's very much a thing that is, there's a very, like I think that's one of the great things about anime conventions, that it is like one of the things that makes them more interesting is they are very much there's a lot more women involved in that space and a lot more creativity and like fun in that space, because like a lot of those kind of personalities also want to go out and cosplay and like do like big things as a group, and there's a lot more of a community aspect as opposed to like more male-centric comic cons, where everything like feels more like it's based on like just identifying with a comic book and being like, I gotta buy things from this comic book or like see an artist, but like that's the goal of it. It's an expo to buy comics instead of like a community gathering like an anime convention feels like, right? Which is why I've always really enjoyed anime conventions over comic cons, because anime conventions feel like they have a soul to them, like a very strong like soul and identity. And I think a lot of that is because the demographic that's involved in it is different. But like you will get men in this space who not only fail to recognize that, actively refuse to like grapple with like why that is the case, and like like why women would be in this space where they feel like is male centric. You know, it's like an anime like Jujutsu Kaisen right now is like this. Well, it's one of the biggest anime out there. It's the big shonen anime, right? Where like it has a whole bunch of crazy fight scenes and all these different kinds of action moments, right? But like a lot of the driving force behind like the media I see around it is a lot of women who are really into this shonen anime and talk about how much they love it and appreciate it. And like Neha, the only anime she's ever liked is Jujutsu Kaisen. And like when I was like trying to like think why did she like this one? Why did she grapple onto this one? It's like actually because like the Jujutsu Kaisen one has like well written adult male characters involved in it, and two writes its female characters with some respect, and like it gives them an identity and like different kinds of like personalities, and doesn't like relegate them into being like the happy cutesy always happy comfort character. You know, they have like their own kinds of struggles and like flaws, and like they feel just as fleshed out as the male characters, you know.
Mhm.
So like even though it's like for Neha, she doesn't like care about like action and everything, and like a lot of it's action, but she cares about the action in this because the characters that they've written have like a full on complexity to them. Like one character in Jujutsu Kaisen that everyone loves, his name is Nanami. I'm not gonna look up a picture of Nanami actually because I don't know if that'll pull up. But because he's like a salary man. He's like a guy who was like trained as a Jujutsu sorcerer, which is like these guys who like exorcise demons or like curse spirits. But then he like thought it sucks, so he stopped doing that and instead went into finance as an adult. And then he's like, well, this sucks, so I'm gonna go back to being a Jujutsu sorcerer. And like a lot of his personality is based off the fact that he is like a dude who like is like a tired office worker, but like he fights cursed spirits, you know. And like his like one of his like powers is like when he has to go into like working overtime, which is like when he has to continue fighting stuff after like 6 o'clock. He's like, well, it's overtime now, so I'm stronger. So it's funny. It's an interesting series. But like I don't know, it's like this really weird thing, this frustrating thing of like the representation of women in the anime space always feels like it is reduced down by a lot of people, and not understood about like why they engage with certain media, and why anime does provide that in a lot of ways that like a lot of other, even like a lot of Western shows just don't even bother doing.
Yeah, I'd argue that's a big reason that a lot of women like seinen is because it's like the version of shows that we get here is like Disney Channel. Like that's our version of the happy, cheerful girls, and it's like that's not for adults. Like that's not.
No.
It's hard to laugh at as an adult. You know, it's hard to get escapism by watching a Disney Channel show because that's actually for kids.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't have the kind of emotional maturity you want out of something that could actually like, speak to your experience that you're having as an adult.
Yeah, I like having nostalgic memories of like me and my friends when we were in school. I like being able to relate to like the passionate emotions of female characters, and like it's a very female dominated genre. But it's true that like when I went to Japan and I went to was it Akihabara? We went to the anime, the anime.
Yeah, Akihabara, yeah.
Area. Yeah, Akihabara. And we went to like the famous, like the radio tower, the famous one. And like, wow, there were so many boobs, not just in the radio tower, but just everywhere. It was very, very explicitly sexual everywhere. Yeah. And I was like, we're leaving because like I don't feel comfortable here. I don't feel like this is not for me,
No.
obviously. And since going, I've spoken to a Japanese friend I have who like told me like, oh yeah, for girls, you go to Ikebukuro. Like that's where the like anime stuff that's safe for women is, but you
Yeah.
don't go to Akihabara because that's for men. And I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
weird. Like
That's
it's
weird.
yeah. Yeah.
That was also the experience I had in Akihabara. Actually, was like I went there because like I wanted to be like, oh, this is the place that has like all the figures. You know, maybe I'll be able to like find some figures for like I wanted to find like a Toradora figure that I would like, right? That like I think would actually be
Hmm.
cool. Because like I want in my mind I was thinking, well, it'd be cool to get like a figure of like Taiga with like maybe like her sword or something, or like like her wooden sword, or like some kind of like pose like that. I think those are fun. Like showing off like the personality aspects that I like about the character, which is that like she doesn't take shit from people, you know. Um,
Hmm.
and like all the ones I could find of her in actuality was like her in a maid outfit or like her in her swimsuit, and I'm like, this isn't what I want at all. I don't want to be anywhere near this.
Yeah.
This is far and
Trying to
away
find
not
the
what I
card
want.
captor Sakura. The card captor Sakura figurines were literally every time I found them buried in the very back corner
Yeah.
because they're like not weirdly sexual figurines, so they're just like you have to dive through everything else in order to find them.
It's so
Yeah.
bad sometimes. And like um animes it is undeniable at times that one of the hugest problems with anime is how sexist the society it comes from is, and like how regressive Japan's society can be at a lot of times. And like it comes through in a lot of ways where like even when they're trying to be empowering towards women, they're being dehumanizing towards women, right? Um and like I don't even know if this is intentional. Like did they not even like think about it? I don't even know. Like it just feels like they it feels like the same kind of thing you would get like from American like horror movies, and like especially in like the 70s and 60s, you know, where it's like we'll put a female character through all this types of trauma and horrible abuse, and then they come out stronger and they're a badass. Isn't that writing a good female character? Did we do a good job? No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Game of Thrones. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That also, yes. That's the
yeah,
exact
we
same
we
thing.
have a. I think we have a ways to go with just kind of emotional intelligence in storytelling. Um, I think that like I think like we like not because it's not just Japan. We also don't really understand emotions super well. We struggle to imagine why other people do the things that they do. And if you're a writer and that's what's going on with you, and especially if you are like, a male writer who hasn't spent a lot of time like deeply getting to know the perspective of women, and like that can be hard to do. But if you haven't done that, then like you tend to approach them with this very like othered concept of like what makes a woman powerful. Well, strength makes a woman
Yeah.
powerful. It's the same thing happens when people try to write stories about like empowering black characters, and like they don't really know how to represent that because they don't understand where black communities tend to localize their sources of power. So we get
Right.
things where it's like you get the trope of the hardworking black character, but they miss that black characters, when they're hardworking, they're doing it out of love for like their family and their
Right.
community, and because they're trying to build like a more resilient community, compared to like they're just hardworking as a personality trait, or they're just like a hardworking workaholic. And
Yeah.
like you tend to get these like really surface level takes on why people are doing what they're doing.
Yeah. They're hard working because working hard is a good thing you should always do, because corporations made this movie. Don't think about it too much. No.
Yeah,
Um
the hardworking immigrant, like just that's just what they do. Like this,
just
we're a positive portrayal of immigrants, so they work hard. It's like, ooh, like
just be the model minority.
okay,
Just
like
do that.
ooh. Yeah, that's all right. Okay.
Just aspire to be
Okay.
that. Don't think about it. Just do it. Don't think who's telling you to do
Yeah, just
that.
well, like let's not think about why this character works hard and
Yeah.
what those pressures are, where they come from, and eh, positive representation of immigrants mean doesn't this person capitalism well? Aren't they merging into the culture appropriately? We love to see it.
Hmm.
Not like those other ones. Like, okay, yeah, we have some work to do, I think,
Hmm.
in general. If we become more emotionally intelligent as a society, we will write better stories.
I think another place where that emotional intelligence really fails, especially when like, um, I've watched a lot. I watched some videos from FD Signifier, who is a really good YouTube channel, where he talks about like black culture and black media and like different like forms of like things that are lacking in like black media. And like one of the things I remember them talking about, I don't remember which video it was in, but I know one of the things that they talked about was that like one of the things that's like really over, one of the worst things that happens is like when you have a black character who's like trying to show like how they are like mistreated in society, and like they have like the
Mm.
character doing that to them being like very openly racist, like being like displaying like kind of racism you
Yeah.
get in like the deep south and like the 50s, you know, where like there's like explicit like very explicit like in your face racism, right?
You people.
Exactly, yeah, which is not reflective of the actual racism that most people face, or like the actual um what it actually looks like in the day-to-day life, you know. So instead of like engaging with like a realistic form of it and like relatable form of it, it's like, well, we want this character, we want the audience, the white audience, to like understand how racism is bad, so we're going to make it as exaggerated as possible and not think of portraying ways of where there's more subtle racism, which you haven't really seen until recently. Them even like try to do that.
I think a lot of the writers who were in the room didn't understand subtle racism. Like I like because like
Yeah,
not a lot of white people had even considered doing that work before 2020. And so like how do you write that if you don't even know it exists, you know? Like
exactly.
how do you represent that?
Which I think is why a lot of people like. I think that's also like why a lot of people gravitated towards Get Out. You know, when that came out, because like that was a good portrayal of like. I mean, of course, overt racism that occurs later in the movie, but like the kind of like just like awkward like racism that like you experience in every day, like when you're around. Um, of course, I can't speak to this because I am very white, but like from what I have understood,
Right.
is that like being like a minority in a white space and like feeling like you're being talked to like in like a soft kind of way, you know, like the like I would have voted for Obama again, the kind of like making sure you bring up that like I'm not racist. I hope you know that. I'm not going to engage with you on any kind of other personal level, but I hope you know I'm not racist.
God. There what I love Get Out is so fascinating to me. I like that you said that it was like the awkward things because like I think that's how the interactions kind of are portrayed. Like looking at them from
Yeah,
the outside, they look like awkward interactions. I feel like I wish I can't know this for sure. I
yeah,
know that that movie hit me like I don't really ever want to watch it again because like
yeah,
I can relate so heavily to the main character's like basically feeling gaslit with every interaction he has in every space that he goes into. Like
yeah,
always being unsure, like feeling like these people are not telling him the truth, but being unable to directly say that because to say it would be an aggressive action. And so instead
yeah.
he's just like he has the look on his face basically the whole movie where he's like, I'm pretty sure you're up to something, but I'm just gonna stand here and pretend that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Something's going on, but if I
And
say
that's where the
something,
real
it'll be yeah,
horror,
yeah,
yeah, that's where the real horror, like, I feel like Get Out did that so well, and I hope that it landed for white audiences, just that feeling of being so uneasy because I feel like that's actually one of the more regular experiences of racism in your daily life is just trying to like walk around and live your life, and then you have this interaction and
Hmm.
like you're left with like hmm like just like
You feel on
I
edge.
I can't do anything about it. I
Yeah.
don't know enough to know if that's what was going on. I feel like maybe that was going on. Am I being crazy or was that like, especially when you're the only black person, because when other black people are there, they can come up to you and be like, I saw that too. So like yeah, like we're kind of on the same wavelength about what was going on. When
Hmm.
it's just you don't have that. So you just second guess yourself every second of every day.
Yeah. You're not sure, like, am I overreacting? Is this like what actually happened? Like in most situations, you're not. It is what's happened. But like, you can't ever really like know. You know, you don't have that like. That's what you're saying. You don't have like that second person, that second perspective coming in
Yeah.
there. Yeah. It's
The second the reassure the community, honestly, the sense somebody who understands what you're going through and can just put you at ease that you're not crazy, because it's usually not that you want to do like a lot of this stuff is so small that it's like to address it is going to set you backwards much more than it's going to do
yeah.
anything helpful for you. But the I think the like the emotional and mental health and also sometimes physical stress toll of just being left in that state to constantly wonder, especially if it's like a coworker or
Yeah.
someone that you have to see regularly, and then you're just like, like
Was
I
that
don't
like a
know what
thing
to,
I should have called out? Or like, what would happen? What happened in that? What just happened to me? you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like, and not even just like, because like, call it out. I don't know if you
Yeah.
ever, if
Well,
like,
no.
because let me tell you, that doesn't go well.
No, it
But
doesn't.
like,
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just like, how do I interpret that? Am I being paranoid?
Yeah.
Am I reading too much into this, or is it real? I don't want to just walk around assuming everybody is racist, but that felt pretty weird. Like, because when you try to talk to people about this, they take it like it's an insult if you
Yeah.
feel like something like that has happened. And so it kind of gets ingrained in you that it's a bad thing to do, that you're like, again, talking about a black person who doesn't have the reassurance of a community, because that's my experience.
Yeah.
It ends up feeling like you are this negative person who is trying to see that everywhere. And so you kind of hedge on the side of, no, that's probably not what it was. But then what it leaves you with is this feeling of underlying hostility with nothing to pin it to other than like you as a
Yeah.
person. Like if it's racism, it's not got anything to really do with you, it's got to do with them. But if it's not racism and they're treating you like this, there must be something wrong with you. And so like
Yeah.
that toll of like hovering there and being like, what's going on? Nobody's telling me the truth. I can't trust anyone. I'm looking into this person's eyes and I can't read their face. I can't tell why they're saying what they're saying. Are they being sincere or are they trying to hurt me? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think Get Out
Yeah.
did that really well.
Yeah. No, I think that's one of the things that really, the way that came through in like an understandable like way of like the tension the audience feels, even if I've never been in that situation, right? I still understand that tension, and like why they feel that way, and like what is going on. Because like it doesn't speak to my personal experience, which is experience that I can understand when it was interpreted in that, in the ways that they did. Um, like they built up the tension so well in that movie that like it's hard to deny how you're feeling in that space, and then like how that's just like a normal thing that like everyone that a lot of people have to deal with that you never think of, because like you never are made to, you never like I'm never made to think about like what my face looks like or like what my skin looks like, because it's not supposed to matter to me, like the society doesn't
I,
want that to matter, doesn't want me to think about that mattering, for me at least.
yeah, I want to like contrast the experience with like, because I hear this a lot and can relate to it on some
Mm.
level with like white people entering into conversations with black people either about racism or just like entering into a black space and suddenly being extremely self-conscious of everything that they're saying,
Yeah.
and like being on the lookout for like, am I saying the right thing? I can't tell. Did I say something that hurt their feelings? I
Yeah.
can't read their face. Like now they're talking amongst themselves. Did I do something wrong? I don't know. Like that whole feeling, except
Yeah.
it's every day, your whole life.
Yeah.
It's always like
Yeah.
that.
I have, yeah, because like I have. I mean, yeah, I have felt that in many spaces. I feel, I mean, especially, I especially feel that in a lot of queer spaces because that's like almost everyone who
Oh
I'm
yeah.
friends with is queer, and I am not. Um, so like whenever I interact with like any of my friends, you know, any of my streamer friends, creator friends, friends who are outside of everything here, like most like people who are like people that I have made friends with are on some level involved in like the queer community, right? Or queer adjacent communities. And as someone who is not as much involved in that kind of stuff, who doesn't have that kind of identity, I feel myself feeling that a lot, you know, especially in the beginning of like meeting new people. And I'm like, I gotta be aware of it, you know? Um,
Hmm.
but like, and like, I don't know, it's weird. It's weird because like, it's the, because like so much of my friends are that, like I feel like I'm comfortable now with it, but like definitely when I was younger that was a thing that was like after college, like when I realized that maybe I had been when I was younger more insensitive to it. I was like, I gotta like figure out my shit, you know. um
Yeah.
and like
And
be
I
sure
feel
I'm
like
not
that's
offending
where the
people that
self
I care about. I don't know.
yeah, I feel like that's where the self-consciousness comes from because like now it's easy for you to like interact with your friends and it's like they're just people, and if you meet new queer people they're also just people, like you're very familiar with this
Yeah.
because you've gotten to know people and you've spent a lot of time there. But when you're again like a white person entering a black space and you don't normally do that, or like you don't normally talk to black people about race, so this is like a first time. You're
Mhm.
coming from a religious background, so now you're interacting with queer people for the like openly for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know how to handle that, and you don't like understand how to exist, how to relate, how to like not be offensive. You become very self-conscious of that lack of experience. But I feel like the feeling that of disconnect that's there is the like ism that's being worked through, because it's like I don't know how to talk to this person as a person because I'm really self-conscious about like what if I say the wrong thing, or like I don't know, I just don't know how to
Yeah.
interact with this person in a way that's safe for them. And it's interesting to have that emotional experience of the ism, because again you're saying like people portray racism as this like vitriolic hatred, this anger and aggression, and a lot of times that's not where the isms are coming from. The isms are coming from like this person like has been othered, and like I haven't had the opportunity to engage with content about this kind of person and like sincerely engage in a conversation with this kind of person,
Yeah.
and because of that I don't know how to relate to them as a person. And
Yeah.
like that's the real core of where a lot of these things come from. So like I want to see that represented in media, which is what Get Out did, which is why it's like Get Out's amazing, good
Yeah.
job Get
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then yeah, we have all these stories where like a woman, you make strong woman, like
Yeah.
where you're like this is not helping us like bridge those gaps, you know.
It was like one of the things that I had like when I was younger, you know, and like when people would talk about like, you know, oh, all these great movies that I love, you know, people would talk about like I remember when I got into a place where I could hear more like black voices talking about like movies that they cared about and like what they connected with. I would hear like a lot of people being like, "Oh yeah, movies that like portray black people in like the 50s, you know, or like especially like in slavery eras, you know, why like they didn't care for those as much." And like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that when I was younger, and then getting older I understand it more now, because like one that's like not the experience that they like that most people go through anymore, and like that doesn't really speak to what you're dealing with now. Like maybe historically it was, but like that's not those movies like are more made for like a white audience to be like, hey, look, we're not as bad as we used to be, you know, but like they don't speak to like what you actually like what an actual black person like deals with day to day, or like speaks to like their current experience or like the actual ongoing experience that they have. It more speaks to a very traumatic experience, and like using that trauma to like more so make a white audience feel comfortable, being like, this is how horrible it was, and we don't do that anymore, and you should feel good about that, white audience. That isn't that feel nice that that's not a thing we do anymore. And like those are like what more those movies focus more on, instead of like actually centering like the black characters experience and what they're actually gaining from the story. Like they're not actually like, I don't know, it just like there just isn't as much to gain from like stories so based in slavery as it would like a story about racism as it occurs today, you know, or like what you're occurring, a story that speaks more to like a modern experience, I guess.
Yes, I super agree, and I find those stories actually like I find them really uncomfortable because to me they look like a glamorization of black suffering in a way
Yeah.
that feels a little voyeuristic, kind of like what we've been talking about with these like emotional stories, and like we're just putting the women through like the worst possible thing, like
Yeah.
Elfin Lied, like
Yeah. Yeah.
on the same avenue where it's like we're glorifying the hardship and suffering this person is going through to a level to where it almost feels like we're actually enjoying how like we want them to suffer. Like it's okay that that's what black bodies do, they
Yeah.
suffer, like
Yeah.
you know, like their pain is like they don't feel pain as much as we do, and it's like where does that perception come from? Is it because we've presented like this over and
Yeah.
over in really like graphic and awful ways?
They can endure so much more than I
And it
would ever
really
want
like
to endure, so they must be stronger. So like we're just gonna
yeah,
like put
and
that
it
on
would be
me.
so
Yeah.
weird if we had it would be so weird. All of our stories about women took place in like 17 to 1800s, back when they were all like your husband owns you and
Yeah.
you have no freedom with when you get to have children, and like that was the only time we saw women. Like
Yeah.
that would be so weird, and
Yeah.
it would feel like to watch it, it would feel like, are you suggesting that like there is a kind of nostalgia for this period, even though technically this is a beautiful story about women overcoming it? It
Mhm.
kind of feels like you miss it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's uncomfortable. Please stop.
It's like the constant problem with like, I don't remember the who quote where this quote's from, but like the problem with any kind of war story is that a war story inherently glorifies
Ooh.
war. Even, no matter how anti-war it is a depiction of war, so it is glorifying war in some sort of way. It is making it entertainment and entertaining to view, right? Because it has to be, because it's a story, right? And if it's not entertaining at any point, why are you
Mm-hmm.
there? You know, like entertaining doesn't have to be clapped,
Mm-hmm.
like oh my gosh, this is so cool. But like entertaining has to like grip you in some sort of way and keep you engaged. And by keeping engaged with the war story and with suffering in that level, even if you are an anti-war story, you are still in some way glorifying the act of war, or valorizing the act of war. As it comes into the same thing with valorizing and glorifying women suffering, black people suffering, all these different forms of suffering that occurs here. By portraying it as something that someone is overcoming, you're saying like you're glorifying them overcoming it, and glorifying the ability to them to overcome it, which in some ways, like no matter how anti you are to this thing occurring, you are still glorifying that thing occurring.
Yes, I remember that video essay. I'm gonna go try to pull it up because we're like I'm gonna be aping that guy's point. But one of the core arguments that I really loved that he made was that real war is meaningless.
Yeah.
It's just pain and violence and suffering, and there isn't really a point. Like he makes the point in the video that
Yeah.
they held off on like calling off the fighting in World War II for 12 hours because they wanted it to end on like Christmas Day or something. Like they wanted the ceasefire of the fighting to be on a poignant day of the year. And so in that 12 hours,
Yeah.
people died. And specifically in that 12 hours, one of the movies that he's talking about, that's when the main character dies. And his thesis was, by turning it into entertainment, you are inherently creating meaning. In every war film, even anti-war films, it's like, well, we're saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I got the message to the commander, like, I'm doing this for a point. I am surviving. And it's like, that's not what war is. You go out there and you like suffer and kill people and you come back and it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And by turning it into a story, stories inherently have meaning. So you can't ever truly depict war in a story.
Yeah. I've seen that movie. It's All Quiet on the Western Front. Yeah, it's World War One.
I've read that book.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't know. The movie had issues with it. But yeah, it's you're just inherently glorifying this and valorizing this pain and suffering that when you talk to like an actual veteran, they just went over there and just did stuff because someone told them to. You know, there wasn't anything heroic about it. You know, and like I think that's like a problem like a lot of American veterans have with American society and how otherizing we can be towards veterans also, because we view veterans in a very like we call them heroes and everything here, when like a lot of them look at it and are like, what did I do that was heroic? You know, what are you actually like praising me for? You know, I don't know. It's very it is a very interesting view of just like how we focus things onto trauma, and like because like trauma can be engaging as a story, but like making that the entirety of the way that you view black character stories, we don't do this with white women, at least, because like white women can get stories that are not based in trauma, but like, you know, minority women stories, you know, all these different kinds of stories are always just based in trauma, so that's what you have to deal with it as, which it doesn't have any kind of connection to like just like real life or like real stories that will connect to you as an audience, to that specific audience. But
Yeah. And I think that there's an insidious aspect to how we portray trauma, because there is the narrative of like basically suffering conveying spiritual qualities, that if you suffer, like, you can become a better person afterwards. And that is a lot of people's stories. So I don't want to minimize that. There are a lot of people who've been through awful things and come out the other side and are like, no, I worked through it. I'm a better person now, and they experience post-traumatic growth, and that's great.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the post-traumatic growth that they experienced, could have happened without the trauma. They didn't need the trauma to become a better person.
No.
And B, is the result of them choosing to work hard to like heal.
Yeah.
And it's not a result of what they went through that they ended up becoming a spiritually amazing person. It's because they made the decision to take a random act of horror and overcome it in a very painful process that they didn't need to go through, because we could have prevented usually the traumatic event that occurred. And so I feel like a lot of these stories, like, again, going all the way back to the anime that we were talking about, all the way back to the comfort fic even, there is that glorification of like, what does it mean to have experienced suffering, and like, how does one overcome it, and what does it mean to overcome it? And it's like, suffering doesn't need to happen. It does happen. It doesn't need to happen. And in a lot of situations, it could have been prevented. And that people overcome awful situations is like great and commendable, but like, that is not a cause and effect situation. And we need to like dispel this cultural myth, because it makes us belittle it's where we get the inspirational stories about disabilities. It's where we're like, oh, thank your veterans while not providing them mental health care. Like,
Yeah.
it's where a lot of this comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. So a few things I want to go over in the chat here. The Watley, I wonder if you would consider Godzilla -1 to bypass the glorification of war. It's criticism of war, but the story takes place post-war, or does that disqualify it as a war movie? I don't consider Godzilla -1 a war movie. I consider it a monster movie that has a lot of like Godzilla has always had a lot of allegories, especially in Japan, to Japanese society and like Japanese view of the suffering that they go through, that they have gone through, especially went through, because Godzilla -1 is a post World War II story. I wouldn't consider it a war story. I think it's more of like a story that dives into what it's like to deal with disaster upon disaster, and like what happens when your country is ruined, and how you have to overcome that. It does deal with like glorification of like suffering, but like it's a good movie. Kari, have you seen Godzilla -1?
I have not.
It's good. It's good. It's a good Godzilla movie.
It sounds like it's sticking to the core of Godzilla, anti-war.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like it's really interesting because it is like it's I'm not gonna spoil anything for it, but like it is something that like starts during World War II and like the end of World War II and continues into like post-war, and I feel like it does really get back to like the original message of like the original Godzilla. It felt like a kind of like I don't know. It felt like a soft reboot of the original Godzilla movie, where like they took a lot of like what they did in the original Godzilla movie, but like reinterpreted, added characters, added a lot more depth to those characters, and a lot of things for those characters to overcome, which I thought was really, really fun. But yeah, Godzilla -1's really good.
I didn't even know that I'm understanding that it came out recently, and I'm out here
Yeah.
like, what? Like,
yeah. It just came, it didn't have like a huge marketing campaign, but yeah, it's out. I believe it's still out in theaters. But it's one of the I went to go see it in theaters last week or the week before. It's so good. It's so very good. I loved it. But anyway, let's see here. I've been asking Corey for some help with researching my story setting, and I'm wondering how to handle my any potential othering my characters will be facing. It's a tough balance. Yeah, it is. You got to be aware of your blind spots. I have many, and I do my best to try to listen to a lot of creators who don't have my perspective, because that's the only way that I can be like, I can break my mind out of like what I have always been like raised in, you know? And like I don't know. I grew up in a conservative religious household. Yeah, so it's like I gotta break my mind a little bit to be like, because you can still feel some of the biases in there. You're like, I'm not looking at something right. I need to like reevaluate this.
that's a great thing. I do want to say you're right. We all have our blind spots because unfortunately we will never be able to have lived every life. So we will never be able to not have blind spots.
No, exactly. We all will have something we're completely ignorant on.
Yeah, just do your best. If you're going to make something about a person that you're not, then just do your best to do your research.
Yeah. And like try to be as like emotionally honest as possible, I guess. Like
And also like know your limits. Don't tackle something if it's not your lane, I guess is how the kids would say it. Do they say that still? I don't know. I'm old.
I'm pretty sure someone still says that. I mean, stay in your lane though. Yeah, don't try to like make a story that is speaking to an experience that you do not have. Because like there's just a number of ways that can blow up in your face. I think I still prefer Shin Godzilla for the horror aspect, but yeah, the story of -1 was pretty strong. Yeah, Shin Godzilla was amazing from a horror aspect. Shin Godzilla was fucking crazy. Anyway, now on Crunchyroll, Shin Godzilla with a Have you seen Shin Godzilla? I don't know. I don't know if you have any kind of if you watch any kind of Godzilla movies. It doesn't
I
feel
don't
like
think
your
I've seen
vibe.
any Godzilla.
No. Shin
Yeah.
Godzilla is interesting. The one thing I was gonna mention from it is that there is a character who is her character is Japanese American. Like she works in the White House, and like she's there, like in Japan to like guide on like what America will help them do. And like one of the movie's criticism is of Japan and America's like interconnectedness and like how reliant Japan is on America in a lot of ways. Um,
Mm.
and the one thing I just think is funny is that is she has a very bad English accent. There's characters who have good English accents. She is not one of them, and like she's supposed to work in the White House. And it's like, yeah, okay. I noticed this, of course. I know I know a number of Asian speaking people would say the same thing of like any Hollywood movie, but like it is funny to be like, oh, I'm on the other side of this now. I can say this is bad.
How do you know?
Yeah, it's always weird when you put in those situations like, oh, this is what it feels like to have my culture viewed from a very very small lens and not really understood at all. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just growing up. Also,
Yeah.
I didn't realize "stay in your lane" was such a negative connotation. Um, yeah, I guess I mean just don't tackle topics that you aren't prepared for. Is
Yeah.
really the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Saw Sin Godzilla comes out because it was living in a heavily racist county. I almost say country. Anyway, it had a bleak outlook at the time. The movie was incredibly cathartic. Sometimes you need a movie where the monster kills everyone to cheer you up. I mean, yeah, it's Shin Godzilla is a fun movie. It's a fun movie with fun times with a giant monster that shoots lasers. And don't we all need that, Kara? Don't we all need
Yeah,
lasers?
honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I mean, that sounds like the fun kind of action movie rather than like the Game of Thrones kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, that's what you need a lot of times here. Okay. I don't want to keep up too much of your time, and also it's starting to get late, so I think we'll start wrapping this up here. I really want to thank you for coming on, Cara. I think this is a really great conversation. I think we had some really great conversations here, and it's
Yeah.
it's fun to have like I I love all my friends I have on, all my guests I have on here, but it's fun to speak with someone who does have that much of who has like a writer's background, because it's always interesting to engage and get your thoughts on these kind of things because you are a professional writer who has very good opinions and is very as you can tell, I'm not the best at choosing a lot of words because I'm using very a lot right now. But you're great at like voicing your opinion in a nuanced and understanding way. Where like I always feel like I'm gaining so much out of listening to you talk about any kind of subject. So I really appreciate you coming on here.
Oh my God. What the heck? That was so nice. I'm like emotionally overwhelmed now. Like, how do I even respond to this?
You're entertaining and I like listening to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank
I
you.
would be happy to come anytime.
Of course.
This was very fun.
Yeah, I will hit you up again very soon because I always love hearing having friends on and discussing like a wide range of topics. This is the point of why I like doing this as a weekly show now, because like I like having my free time during the week, and like coming in and just having a nice conversation with a friend. Like I think that's great for me, and I think it makes more interesting content. So hey, here we go. We're winning.
Here we go. Yeah.
Would you like any to tell anyone about? I know you're not streaming, you're not on social media anymore. But do you have anything you want to like promote or like like suggest to people, like recommend or anything like that?
Oh, the only thing that's coming to mind, it's a bit old now, but I would say if you want a really, if you want to, we've been talking about perspectives.
Yeah.
If you want a story that's really just gonna turn things topsy-turvy for you, but is also still just a really good, excellent, fun story, check out Iron Widow.
Iron
It
Widow.
is, yes, it's a mecha. It's basically a mecha anime in a book,
Oh.
in which Wu Zetian, who is like a Chinese empress, is like it's an alternate it's an alternate sci-fi fantasy future in which she is a mecha pilot who like gets paired up with like a serial killer basically, and they like take on, listen, it's metal. It's so intense. It's very good.
I have heard a lot. Actually, I follow this. I follow the writer, the author for this on Instagram
Yes.
and YouTube. She has some really good videos. Where she's talking about like cultural problems with a lot of the Mulan movies, or like a lot of movies. There, she's really interesting. I've been wanting to read her book, but that's. I'm glad to hear that you read it and that you are vocally pushing for that. So that I want to give that a shot too, because it does seem like
Yeah.
a very interesting take, interesting setting for like a it's like kind of like a sci-fi fantasy story, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've not read a lot like it because it is so it's it's yeah, I don't know. It's kind of incomparable, but I will say that it's one of those books that you start reading and you get like you just get pulled through. Like it's so well paced and there's so much
Mhm.
happening and you're just like in it. You're like, "Go, girl, go." And she's like not a standard protagonist. She's like kind of a villain, but
Mhm.
you're like rooting
I
for her
love
because
that.
she's
I
like
love that.
she's right, but she's angry. And it's great.
I love that. That sounds really great. I will. I'm gonna. I will definitely give that a shot here. Thank you very much for recommending that. Yeah, don't forget To Be With You, a great game made by Kara, available on Steam.
Oh yes.
Um,
Yes.
I
Thank you,
write
Wadley.
that's a great game. I love it. It's really it's not a happy time, but it's very impactful and thought provoking. Um, it's a beautiful
Thank
game.
you. Good luck, Yellow Ring.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank y'all for hanging out here. I of course have my things that I need to do, which is of course like I got my socials, I got my Discord, I got my new video on Frieren, which again highly recommend the anime. If you want to hear me talk about it, there you go. Give it a shot. That video is not doing that well, unfortunately. So which is just like how things work sometimes. It's fine. But like give it a shot if you want to hear about the best anime this year, because Frieren is an anime that understands fantasy characters, pacing, and has some incredible animation and music to bat. So it's the complete package. Go watch it. We're gonna raid someone though. 1 second. Let me just
Ooh.
let's figure out who we're gonna raid, because I got a couple friends streaming right now, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, we are gonna be. What the hell is she doing? We're gonna be rating Yumasuki. She is playing Katamari Damacy reroll. If you know Yume, you know she is a chaotic person, and this will probably be a chaotic stream. So go watch Yim Yam, and be sure to give the message cold raid. That's the raid message here. So I want to thank y'all for coming out. Hope y'all have a great day, a great night, whatever it is you're having, and stay rad. And thank you again, Cara, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a great night.
Yay. Okay. Goodbye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Fuck off.
I'm like waving. I'm like, bye.